Welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining our webinar. My name is Roos de Jong and this is Peter Paul Verbeek. And you might remember us from the online course Philosophy of Technology and Design on FutureLearn. And today we will have a webinar to shortly review that course and tell you more about the master's program Philosophy of Science, Technology and Society here at the University of Twente. In this webinar, we will first take a moment to reflect on the online course. Many of you followed, I presume. And we will share some experiences from our side. And we would like to invite you to share your thoughts or ask any remaining questions using the chat. You can log in on your screen to join the discussion. We are also very interested in any suggestions for improvement of our course, as we are currently working on it for the next run. So after sharing some data about the online course, we will provide you with more information about the Masters of BSTS, and we will talk about the program layout, the admission, student experiences, and job perspectives. And besides that, we will also spend some time discussing the research conducted at the University of Twente for those of you who are not prospective students, but maybe professors or PhDs. So during the entire presentation, you can send your questions via our chat, and together with my colleague Rana, we will be answering them. And at the end of this webinar, we will also address a selection of specific or unanswered questions. So, Peter Paul.
Thank you very much, Roos. Yeah, maybe it's good first to look back a little bit on the MOOC that we've been doing, which was actually for us also quite an exciting thing to do. The first time that we run this MOOC on philosophy of technology and of design, which was kind of an exciting experience, I think. Many of you joined, I guess, and we got a lot of interesting reactions. Many people who actually sent us emails and had a lot of discussion online. So it's nice. Maybe the good thing to say is for those of you who did not do the MOOC already, we have a new run of the MOOC which starts August 21, and you can already enroll now on FutureLearn. So maybe it's good first to give you some kind of an overview of what we've been doing in our MOOC. Actually, you could see the MOOC as some kind of a crash course in philosophy of technology and design. A very quick course, 3 weeks of 4 hours study load per week, in which we discuss, three main lines in the philosophy of technology and design. The first week we started out with some information about the older views in philosophy of technology, Jaspers, Heidegger, how can you understand how technologies affect society? And then actually in the second week we focused on more contemporary approaches, on the philosophy of mediation, as you could call it. Rather than seeing technology as objects, somehow opposed to humans as subjects, we try to see technologies as media, mediators between humans and world, shaping how we do things, how we live our lives. And that offers also a good basis to do the thing that we try to do in week 3, focusing on ethics and design. So if technologies influence what we do, how we interpret the world, how we experience the world, what's the normative dimension of that? Can we read technologies in ethical terms? And if we can do that, can we also design ethics into technologies? Can you do ethics with the help of things rather than with the help of words? So that's what we did. And it proved to be a course that's interesting, maybe not only for philosophers, but also for designers or people who have a broad interest in how technology is changing our society. We had many people joining in, 2,746 people actually enrolled in the course. Of course, not all of them finished, but many of them did, which was also for us quite an exciting thing, because people came really from all over the world. And Roos will tell us a bit more about that.
Yes, because as I have been moderating the course, I actually saw a lot of nice reactions. And in the first few steps, also people introduced themselves. And we saw that there are very different people joining us from all kinds of ages and all kinds of different backgrounds, which also is shown in the statistics provided by FutureLearn. This map shows that learners from all over the world joined us. There's a high percentage from the UK, but also from the Netherlands, the US, but also Brazil, India, all kinds of places. So in another table, we also see the enrollments by age range. This also shows that we had many people from the ages between 18 and 35, like the typical student age, but also many people like from 35 onwards. So this was also very interesting. This is actually also a thing that we see in the PSTS study program, people joining from all kinds of ages, but we will come back to this later. So let's have a look at this slide. We had an overwhelming amount of reactions and contributions, and I really think that it were these discussions in each step that really made the course interesting. It was also nice to see that the journalists picked up on our course in the PC magazine. Yeah.
That was exciting. Thanks. Now, so I think indeed for those of you who have not done the MOOC yet, maybe this is really the extra added value when you do the MOOC. It's not only the content that we try to give you and that we've been working on very hard actually, but also the interaction between you. And there were a lot of interesting views that people shared, documents people shared with each other, etc. So also for us, in that sense, it was quite an exciting thing. So we actually also want to learn from your experiences. So those of you who did the MOOC, do you have any tips for us? How could we improve things? But also we'd like to hear how you took on the MOOC. So did you do some follow-up reading? Did you start new projects? Did it change things in your daily life? So that would be awesome to hear. And maybe also those of you who have not done the MOOC yet, what would you expect from it? So if you could chat a bit about that, Roos will answer your chats and gather your input. And in the meantime, I will tell you a little bit about our master program, PSTS, in Philosophy of Science, Technology and Society here at our University of Twente. Because actually the master program, PSTS, as we will call it from now, it's so many words, is somehow the basis for the MOOC that we were teaching. And the MOOC is actually a small sample of one of the courses, one of the introductory courses of the master program. So it might be good for you just to learn a bit about what that PSTS master then is. It is a master program with already quite a long history. I think we've existed now for almost 30 years. Started out as a Dutch language master program, but I think for over the past 10 years it has been an English language master program, trying to analyze and understand and evaluate the role of science and technology in our society. How do technologies change the world? How can we understand that role of technology? And also how can we bring that understanding to normative reflection, to design, policy making, etc. So, a few general words. Maybe let's first go through some information that might be a bit boring, but that also gives you some kind of an idea what the master is. So first of all, it's international. All courses are taught in English, and we have people joining here from all over the world. So it's really a very vibrant international atmosphere that we have in our master program. It is not a Dutch program. There are, of course, Dutch students as well, but there are people from many other countries. It's a 2-year master program, 120 EC, as we call it in Europe. And you don't need a pre-master, so you can just enroll with a bachelor in any field, actually. I will tell a bit more about that later. Then in the master program itself, there are also ample opportunities to study abroad, outside the Netherlands, at other universities that we cooperate with, or in companies that we cooperate with. And I should also say that the program, of course, gives you a basis in the philosophy of technology, in science and technology studies, empirical studies, but also it trains you in reflection and academic skills. And I think, of course, that's really what you can use in your later work, also beside all the content that we give to you. Another important feature of the master program, I think, is that it has an empirical orientation. So we do not only start from the philosophical tradition or from theoretical approaches, but we often also start from technologies themselves, studying what they do in our society. How do antenatal diagnostic technologies change ethical questions? How does MRI imaging change paradigms in neuroscience or something? So you can also ask philosophical questions from technologies rather than only applying philosophy to technologies. It's run by 2 departments, one in STS and one in Philtech, as we call it in an abbreviation. So, philosophical reflection, multidisciplinary on science and technology, where we analyze and evaluate the impact of science and technology on society. Maybe just to give a few examples. I gave a few of them actually already. So information technologies obviously play a very big role in our master program. And there are a lot of ethical and societal issues about safety, security, about privacy, etc. But I think this is something people study in many fields. We really also try to link it to ideas about human identity, for instance, about democracy. How do all these essential elements of our society change through information technologies. Medical technologies, we gave you the example already of antenatal diagnostics, fMRI imaging. How do the paradigms of medical doctors change? If you have a new technology to read the activity of the brain, as people are doing now here in Twente, which are so accurate that you can actually still see brain activity in people who are already called something like brain dead. It means that you might need to rethink the boundary between life and death even, right? So very fundamental questions about life and death even change through technologies. Robots, AI, autonomous agents are entering our society. What will they do to education, to nursing, a drone in warfare or in healthcare maybe even, in farming? How will they change all those societal processes? Nanotechnologies, new particles entering our world. Are they poisonous or not? But also nanotechnologies giving us new sensor networks with which we can do a lot of interesting new things. At this university here in Twente, people are working on a chip that might enable you to choose whether you will get a boy or a girl if you're expecting a child. What will that do to our society? Well, just a few examples of the stuff that we are studying here. We try to understand it, to evaluate it, and also to engage with the technologies themselves. I think we can also say that it's a good master program. We are highly ranked in the Elsevier system. Students like it a lot. Many of the students who did, the vast majority of them who did the master really, tell other people that you should really come to Twente to do this master and recommend it. So we're really happy with that. Let me talk you quickly through the main lines of the master program. So it's a 2-year master program, which means 4 semesters. Each with their own identity, you could say. The first one is an introduction, a broad introduction. And as I already said, you can enroll with any background in science, technology, social science, or philosophy. Any background will do. So the first semester is intended to give you an adequate basis to do the rest of the master. And it varies a bit depending on your own background. The second semester really deepens your understanding of technology. So it focuses on the philosophy of technology. How can you understand technology and science in relation to technology in a deeper way? Third semester then actually specializes you in a subfield, and the fourth one is working on your master thesis. So I will not talk you through all the details of the courses, but you could see on this list that we introduce you to the main lines of philosophy of technology, philosophy of science, history of science and technology, ethics and technology, anthropology and technology, social views on technology, etc. It's a broad introduction. Then the second year, actually, the specialization year, there are 3, you could say, profiles that you could choose within the master program. One focuses on technology and the human being, the other focuses on technology and values, and the others on the dynamics of science and technology. So the first one is listed on the slide. You can see here, focuses on technology and the human being. How do technologies affect what it means to be a human being? You take courses in philosophical anthropology, you take courses in shaping technology and use. So how can you, in the design of technologies, influence the use that people make of them? And also in the philosophy of mind and body. And you also then do courses from the other lines in the master program, which you can do. All students also take a course we call Master Lab. And in Master Lab, we give you research skills, but we also help you to come up with a good plan for your master thesis. So which is also kind of a challenge, you could say. And the supervision for that is also part of the Master Lab course. So the second line you could choose is technology and values, focusing on specific ethical approaches to technology, technology and the quality of life, technology and the environment, globalization, emerging technologies and how to assess them. And again, of course, with the Master Lab and the master thesis writing. Then the third one, the dynamics of science, technology and society, focuses on the interactions between science, technology and society with the focus on the philosophy of science and technology. How do technologies shape how we do science? The dynamics and governance of social technical change. So how can we govern the influence of science and technology in society? And of course on the spatial and temporal dynamics of science, technology and society. So how does it change what space and time mean in our culture? So that's a broad overview. Then, of course, you do not need to conclude your program here. And we have a lot of other universities that we work with where you can move to do part of your study there, which actually is an interesting option that some students really do very enthusiastically. Okay, then when you have done it, what could you expect? What kind of jobs could you do? I think it's quite broad. So the examples you see on the slide here are typically Dutch examples, but it's a wide range of jobs that people end up in. Policymaking, government institutes, national offices for technology assessment, ethical committees, etc. Of course, also in the academic world, you can of course do a PhD after your master program, and the technology and values line in a master even has a dedicated PhD track in it. All kinds of work in, you could say, a form of consultancy. You could do environmental offices, agencies, etc. But also, of course, industry and business, communication, journalism, etc. There are many types of jobs that people end up in. And actually, I've not heard of one single student who has not been able to find a job. So in order to let you experience a bit about what it means for the future, we have two testimonials of students who can tell you a bit more about what PSTS meant for them in their working life.
What inspires me are questions between technology and society, how they shape each other, how they interact, but more importantly, and where it really gets interesting, is where they clash, where there are important questions from technology that shape society and vice versa. Philosophy of Science, Technology and Society is a group. What inspires me are questions between technology and society, how they shape each other, how they interact, but more importantly, and where it really gets interesting, is where they clash, where there are important questions from technology that shape society and vice versa. Philosophy of Science, Technology and Society is a great way to broaden your perspective on many things and to think critically about new technologies and how this shapes our world, actually. The Netherlands Commission on Genetic Modification is an advisory body of the Dutch government, and what we do is we advise on environmental risks of working with GMOs, genetically modified organisms, and we inform the Dutch government on ethical and societal aspects of GMOs. There are several moments in my career where I really felt that I was contributing something to shaping technology. For example, last year I was at an international summit on human genome editing in Washington. There are some very interesting things going on in biotechnology from a scientific perspective, but these also bring about very important questions for us as a society. And when I was at this conference, it was really interesting to see the international debate and discussion about this topic. What I learned during Philosophy of Science, Technology and Society, I think the most important thing is to think critically about science and technology. To not see technology as something that is value-free and science not as something that is value-free, but also not as something that it's not happening to us. We can shape the technology the way we see fit. The only problem is there are a lot of different perspectives on technology, and that's the challenge, and it's a very interesting challenge. A very interesting part of my work is that I meet with a lot of different stakeholders. Because I have both a technical background and a philosophical background, I talk to policymakers, I can talk to scientists, I can talk to NGOs, and it's really interesting. You can learn from all these different perspectives. What's very satisfying in my work and what makes me proud is when you have written a report, you discuss it with your experts, and the report is actually taken up by the government and is being discussed in a parliament, and an action is taken.
Ethics of technology is becoming increasingly important. You can, for example, just look at the news, fake news being spread on Facebook and the way in which that has influenced, for example, the US election results. I'm currently doing research in the Adapt Center. The Adapt Center is a research center that includes different universities. I'm mostly based in Dublin City University, but also in Trinity College, Dublin. In my research project, we're working on the one hand theory and on the other hand also concrete applications. So one of the concrete applications we're working on now is called the Ethics Canvas, which is a collaborative tool for researchers to discuss ethical issues in the research that they're doing in a very concrete way. Well, the most exciting part of being a PhD is, I think, the freedom you get. So I got the opportunity to really go in depth to research questions that concern me as a person very much, to understand better the world that we live in. The unique thing about the PSTS program is that it's very applied. So it looks at really concretely at technology in society, but looks at it from a philosophical point of view. And it's really important nowadays in the changing global environment in which technology plays more and more of an important role to have these reflections. And that knowledge I'm using right now in my PhD. Life in Dublin is pretty great. The Irish have a great culture of hanging around in the pubs, of course, enjoying life. It's a really nice place to live and work. So my ambitions for the future are to really participate in the academic community. At the moment I already published 3 journal papers, and it's really great to see how people pick that up and how ideas get shared. For the moment at least, I really want to pursue an academic career, maybe write a book someday and really contribute to the field.
While you were watching the movies here in Enschede, we started to have a little rain and a small, maybe even storm. So we hope you can keep hearing us, but in the lab where we are teaching the course from, our own nice design lab, I think the atmosphere is always nice. So you have just been watching 2 movies of students who did PSTS. Of course, we also have somebody here who is actually doing PSTS now. Roos was not only one of the moderators of the course, but is also a student in our master program. So who could better well, tell you something about what it means to do PSTS than Roos?
Thank you. Yeah, so I will tell a little bit more about myself. So before I moved to Enschede for PSTS, I studied philosophy at the University of Utrecht, and I did all kinds of courses, but gradually got drawn to epistemology and social and political philosophy. During my bachelor's, I also took a minor in international relations, and I spent 1 semester at the National University of Singapore. And this university actually offered several courses that combined philosophy with society-related issues. And I found these interconnected and dynamic fields of study very interesting, and looked for a master program with a similar approach. And as it turns out, PSTS for me is a great opportunity to combine applying and sharpening my philosophical skills with my desire to understand and evaluate the increasing role of technology and science in society. Oh, I forgot the slide, but here it is. So after attending the open days, I became acquainted with the courses offered by the PSTS program and got really excited about how it deals with critically analyzing and assessing the impact and importance of scientific and technological developments to individuals in society, as well as investigating the role of technology in a broader social and political context. So personally, I consider it a great advantage that PSTS has a practical orientation instead of solely focusing on pursuing an academic career. I also think it's very interesting how the curriculum is both relevant to academic and public discourses on science and technology. So, yeah, many of the philosophical and technological issues discussed in our courses have also taken resonance in popular media and society at large. So in addition to the relevance and importance of the curriculum, I think the multidisciplinary approach of the program is very valuable. Students with different cultural, professional and academic backgrounds can join the program and contribute to a unique learning environment. Because even though it is very challenging to create some common ground for discussion, like having engineers, social scientists and philosophers take part really makes it more interesting to discuss what the impact of science and technology is or should be. So another thing I want to mention that really stands out for me is the dedication of professors, teachers and the supporting staff contributing to the program. Because since you get a lot of freedom in individual assignments to pick up on topics you're particularly interested in, it is also valuable that teachers are always available to talk with you by appointment or by an open door policy. So there are also various academic and non-academic positions open for students which enable you to interact and engage with teachers as colleagues, like I am doing now. Does it work? Yeah, the PSCS master program also has a nice study association where students, alumni, PhDs and professors meet. It organizes several activities like monthly drinks, philo films, where a movie with a philosophical meaning is introduced by a professor or by students and then watched and discussed afterwards. And in February, a group of PSCS students also went on a study trip to Stockholm, which was really nice. I was there myself as well. And we visited the Swedish Royal Institute of Technology, as well as 2 companies, to learn more about philosophy of technologies in general and how we can apply our philosophical knowledge in practice. So if you have any questions after this webinar, you can go to our Facebook page and ask also your questions on the forum. And if you by any chance are around, you can also experience life as a student by being a student for a day. And you can find more information on the website. So, for you.
Thank you. Very nice to hear that. There's a lot of rain here. I'm not sure if you can hear it all over the world, but we have to speak louder and louder, but we will just go on. So I think it's good then to tell you a little bit about what's required for you if you would want to enroll in our master program. So as I said, any bachelor's degree will do. A bachelor's degree in sciences and engineering, social science or philosophy and other humanities field will do. The most important thing is that you're really genuinely interested in understanding how science and technology change our society. And we also ask you therefore to explain that to us. What motivates you to study this? And for us it really helps also to estimate if you are really a potential good PSTS student, and also to help you to find another opportunity if this is not really what you want. Any background will do, and as I said, we deal during the master program with the difference in background, just to make sure that you can actually do all the courses. When you would enroll, of course, one very essential thing is that your English should be good enough. So we ask you to prove that that is the case by a minimum of a 6.5 score on the IELTS test that you can do. And we also ask all international students and students of Dutch Universities for Applied Sciences to do a writing assignment. It's not only for English writing, but also for academic writing skills. So more information and also applying online you can do through the link that you see here, www.eng/education/master/how to apply. We should do something about that. It's too long a link, but we hope that will give you all the information that you need. And please ask anything you would want to ask online now during the chat. Okay, having said that, maybe it's good to tell you a little bit about the research that we do in the 2 departments that are actually, hosting the master program. So as I said, it's 2 departments. Maybe I should first tell you if you would want to answer the questions on chat, that would be also, otherwise you stand here. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. So 2 departments that investigate each in their own way the role of science and technology in society. A more philosophically oriented department doing what we call empirical philosophy, a philosophy that's somehow rooted in empirical studies, and a STS focusing department doing all kinds of research in the social sciences and in the humanities to study the interactions between science and technology and society. So let's first start with that department, the STEPS department, Science, Technology, Policy Studies department. It has 3 main research lines. One line focusing on policy, science and innovation policies, addressing all kinds of issues regarding the governance of science and technology in society. So how can we analyze how science and technology affect society, and how can we somehow govern those implications? How could we deal with that in a responsible way? Then there is a second research line in technology dynamics and assessment, focusing on the dynamics of the development of new technologies. How do the social and material interactions work behind the coming about of new technologies? And how can we actually unravel that interaction to also be able to govern socio-technical change, the ways in which society changes under the influence of technology? Then third, there is a more historically oriented line of research, the history of science, technology and society, focusing on what you could call long-term developments and all kinds of societal changes and transformations in interaction with science and technology. How can we understand how science and technology have been shaping our society in the past, and how can we learn from that for the present? So three lines of research in STS, each with their own dedicated focus of attention. The same holds true for the philosophy department, with three research lines, one focusing on ethics of technology, one focusing on human-technology relations, and one focusing on science and technology in their interaction. And so the ethics of technology line develops all kinds of approaches to anticipate the future implications of technology on society and to evaluate them. And one of the lines of research that many people are engaged there is a line that's about the good life. How do views of what a good life is, give us a framework to evaluate new technologies? How can we develop new, interesting, good forms to evaluate new technologies? Which is a challenge actually, because new technologies typically change the world so profoundly that the existing frameworks we have do not really fit those new input in our society. So we need to develop new frameworks all the time. Then there's the human-technology relations line of research, actually the line that I'm leading. And there we try to study the interactions between humans and technologies. How do technologies change the ways in which we understand the world, the ways we live our lives? How can we understand that more deeply, but also how can we evaluate that? What's the quality of the implications of technology for human existence? How do we actually maybe need new concepts to understand what it means to be a human being in the first place? Or how can we understand the differences between humans and technologies? Once we see that technologies have an implication for our ethical views, can there be ethics also in technologies rather than only in humans? So all those complicated relations between humans and technologies are studied in that research line. And third, it's the philosophy of science in relation to technology. The practice of doing science involves a lot of technologies that are being used, being put to use. So how can we understand how technologies affect the ways in which we do science? What kind of somehow interconnections are there between science and technology? Is it a different type of science that we are heading towards? How can we do the philosophy of science from the perspective of technology? So that's, in a very sketchy view, the research that's been done at two departments that are the basis for our master program. To really, I think, very good departments, very vibrant, lively groups. There are many people coming here for a sabbatical, studying here for some time, working on books, etc. A lot of seminars, meetings, conferences. It's really a very active academic environment where I think if you would want to study PSTS, you will really like to engage with all the activities that are taking place here. So I guess that ends a bit our tour. We try to tell you a bit about the MOOC, to somehow wrap up what we have been doing and to make people who have not done it yet a bit more enthusiastic, maybe even to maybe enroll August 21 via the website of FutureLearn. And I tried to explain a little bit about our master program. We gave you some testimonials of past students, a current student, and some information about the master. I could imagine that you have a lot of questions to ask. You have already asked them, and I will try to answer them now, live. And of course, if there are more, please send them via chat or use the information that you see on this slide. There's an email address that you can use. There's a Facebook page that you can use, and you can even, of course, make a phone call. But maybe the best way to conclude this session is now to answer the most urgent questions that actually have popped up during the chat. And I think I will get them somehow on my iPad here in front of me. So let's see. What are the main things that I should answer? Maybe I should refresh the page. Okay, well, I have not seen any input yet. I will try. Okay, I see here one question. Somebody says, hello everyone, I'm a philosophy instructor at a 2-year college in Minnesota. I have a sabbatical coming up, and this summer I'm exploring possible activities for that. Yesterday I met with Diane Michaelfelder, who I happen to know quite well, an editor of Techne, one of the journals in our field, and she suggested I look into the University of Twente. So here I am. I don't speak Dutch. Well, this sounds good. Welcome here. Well, this is also, I think, maybe interesting to see. The field that I'm working in is a small field. So Diane Michaelfelder actually is quite a visible academic in the field of philosophy of technology. And this shows also how close the community of researchers is all over the world. People who are studying the impact of science and technology in our society. It's not a very big community, big enough to make a substantial impact, to have our own journals like Techne, the journal that is mentioned in the question, but also small enough to just live in the Netherlands and know people quite well who work from the US. So welcome, nice that you've joined here. Are there any other questions that I should answer? I'm asking the team here. Yeah, okay. Apostolos had a question. Master Lab includes some online material parallel to the normal class. I'm supposed to start my thesis in spring, but I would benefit from early contact. Okay, that's an interesting question. So we have the course, Master Lab, and that course is actually intended to help students to develop research skills and also to arrive at a good formulation of a research question to be able to write a master's thesis during the 4th semester of the master program. In the early days we encountered that this was a major source of delay for students, so this course really helps students to stay on track. So it also means that it's kind of hard to do that, you could say, online and from a distance already in advance. Of course, you could ask for some advice on your thesis, but I think typically the interaction is between the supervisor of the thesis here and also the teacher of the Master Lab course, because the teacher of the Master Lab course helps you with research skills and also to organize the very, you could say, timeline and the process of doing the very research, whereas the supervisor is typically there for the content, for the reflection on what you've been writing. So I think I'm not sure which field you're in. It would also really depend on who would be the obvious person to help you here. But you could just somehow drop us a line if you're really interested in pursuing the idea of coming to Twente to do your PhDs master here. Then we can give you all information you want. We'd better do that on a one-on-one basis, I think. Then there is Simon van Schagen, who asked, are there practical case studies also part of the courses? And could you give an example? Well, indeed, they are. Actually, that's one of the central ideas in our master program. So it's an empirically based type of philosophy that we are doing. We do not only start with the philosophical tradition. Of course, you get courses that introduce you to the history of philosophy, etc. But the main thing is that we try to understand how technology changes our society and therefore also how technology challenges the framework that have been developed in our philosophical field. So it ranges, there are many different cases that people study, and it also differs per year actually on how students, how teachers change the course. But if I speak from my own experience, I'm currently working on smart cities, sensor networks in cities that somehow give information about the city, about the kind of waste that people somehow produce, the number of cars on the streets, the number of people walking and biking at some places, etc. And that actually, opens also new ways to feel engaged with the political and social issues that are there in a city. Actually, they're also challenging the idea of democracy. So can we have new forms of engagement, citizen engagement in cities once we have those sensor networks? They're not only there to do surveillance or to help the administration to let things run more efficiently, but can it also open, more you could say democratic ways of engaging. So then it's a challenge for theories of democracy, because how to understand then a democratic society when not the nation but maybe the city becomes the central entity, and when citizens rather than only people in the city council start to make decisions, etc. Just one of the examples. There are many more of such examples. Another question was, what are the possibilities for scholarships? Is it competitive to get a scholarship? Well, that's, of course, there are many types of grants you could get to study here. So the University of Twente has its own scheme there. And I'm actually not sure about it. I think every year 2 students can get a grant from the University of Twente to come and study here, but we should check that because it's information from some time ago. I'm not up to date with the current situation. Some students also come here with a grant from the government in the country where they live. Or some students choose to have a job beside doing the master program, so to study in part-time and to also work. So there are many ways in which you could fund doing the master program. I think life in the Netherlands is not extremely expensive. Of course, it really depends on the country where you live now, how it compares. And also it really depends on where you live, how expensive it is to enroll every year in a master program. So that's maybe information that's very specific for everyone, but you can find all that information actually online when you go through the international registration page. So I hope that gives you enough information. Then the last question, how is it to be an older student at the UT? Is it recommended to live on campus, for instance? Well, it's also a really nice question. So the interesting thing of our master program is I think that it attracts people from all ages. Of course, there's the typical age of students, let's say between 25 and 35 or something. But some people decide to do a philosophy master, maybe when they're 50 or 55. So that's actually a category of students that we have as well. It's not very big, but it's absolutely open for that. And people then typically do it beside a job. Living on campus, I think, is not something that elderly people choose to do. You could do that. But actually you could also somehow commute and then indeed you could have maybe an apartment here or you share it with some people so that you have a place to stay here. But then actually I think it's cheaper to have a cheap hotel room every now and then. There is a lot of activity among students that's also interesting for people who are not between 25 and 35. I think all the discussion meetings, the philosophical movies that are being organized, the excursions, drinks, it's all nice to take part in, and actually it's often also linked to content. So for instance, all the research groups that I just explained a few minutes ago have their own colloquia, their own meetings where students discuss their work, where staff discusses their work, or we just read interesting articles and books, and typically after that we go out for a drink and we socialize, and that's of course something that's always nice. So I think the boundaries between staff and students are really very low and very thin. So it is nice to have had this interaction with you. It's really nice. I see one last question popping in before I conclude. Okay, somebody said, thanks for the reply. I'll get in touch. On another issue, you mentioned apprenticeships as part of the program. I wonder if those are paid positions. Okay, that's an interesting thing. There are what we call student assistantships. So that's a paid position as a student, but then you of course have to be enrolled as a student. And then indeed you can work sometimes for a few hours a week or 1 day a week or 2 days a week, but it really depends upon availability. So it's not a system like you sometimes see in the US that you can say, okay, I'm going to work for 2 days a week as a student assistant, and then that pays my living, and then I can be a student for the other time that I have. That's not a very common thing in the Netherlands, but it can be an extra source of income for you. But I think don't count on that as something that you could do for 2 years. And that would be very special. You would really need to be able to somehow arrange that beforehand. And another one, I would also like to know what a percentage of master students are in full-time employment parallel to their studies. Okay. Ooh, it is not very many actually. I've just finished supervising a high school teacher in economics, and actually those people can do the master program in part-time. So she just has a job as a teacher, and of course it requires her to work really hard. But then rather than taking 2 years, she took 4 years to finish the PSTS master program, and then she managed quite easily, well maybe I should not say that, but it was doable to do that. It is not weird to do that. There are more people who study on a slower pace because they have extra stuff they do beside it. Some people do another master program beside it. So there is a very obvious normal infrastructure for people who do the master in part-time. So I hope that answers the question a little bit. I think that was the last question. Thank you very much for being with us. It's not raining anymore here, so for us it's easier to speak to you. It was really nice that you wanted to be here with us. We hope it made you enthusiastic. We hope that those of you who did not do the MOOC yet will do it. Don't forget then to tell that to the people at FutureLearn and to make sure that you can start August 21. And of course, I really hope that those of you who had already a little bit of interest in our master program are now really convinced that they should come to Twente. It's just awesome here, so we hope to see you here. Bye-bye.
What is the right question? You may have asked yourself all kinds of questions all your life. How does this work? What causes this? Is this right? How can we make this better? Or this? How can science and technology really contribute to change? Who do you want to be? How can we develop new materials for a sustainable future and eliminate the use of fossil fuels? Will biomass become the major resource for new fuels and chemicals? How can we store gigawatts of solar energy in the smart grid? How can we create a safer society and realize smart cities? Will big data protect or invade our privacy? If your smartphone becomes a supercomputer, what's next? Will machines take over? Or can robots become our best friends? What if our average age becomes 130? Will our homes then be future hospitals? How can we develop therapy that is less invasive? Will light enable breakthroughs in life sciences? And will technology help our body to heal itself? Can we mimic human life on a chip and create new life? What is quality of life, and who's responsible for it? It all starts with curious minds, people who do not take things for granted, who explore crossovers between various scientific areas, crossovers between technology, design, art, and philosophy. Focus and connection. That's what it's all about. Science and technology are changing the world. But is change always a good thing? How can we find answers that most people will benefit from? Can you imagine how great a nanoparticle can be? Can we design social impact? How can high tech battle poverty? How can we have too little and yet far too much water? How do we turn scientific results into new business? Are you prepared for a job that doesn't exist yet? What can you contribute? How can nature inspire us? Will Earth be our only home? Is every answer possible? Is there more? Innovation is about the future of our society. It is about realizing ideals and improving quality of life for all of us. What do you expect from science?
And what do you think society expects?
All those questions. Are you ready for finding answers?
The most entrepreneurial university.